Hey everyone, my name is Brian Matiash, and I'd like to welcome you to this episode of ON1 Inspiration. Now, I want to thank my friends at ON1 for asking me to come back, and it's really timely because here in the United States, in about a week from now, we're going to be celebrating July 4th, which is our Independence Day. And this is a photo, actually, that I created way back when. I think, actually, when I was working at ON1 on a previous inspiration episode. And what I wanted to do is that was well before ON1 Photo RAW, well before pretty much everything that is currently out now, obviously. So I want to revisit this. You know, a lot of people are going to be photographing fireworks, and there's a really cool technique that I use to try to get the kind of greatest hits of fireworks, because if you look here, when you see the components, this is actually, I think, 4 or 5 different photos that I masked together, again, way back in the day. But with ON1 Photo RAW, this is 2017.5. I wanted to try it again, see if anything's different. And I want to kind of put this up in your minds as you go out and shoot fireworks. And obviously, if you're not in the United States or you don't celebrate July 4th, odds are there are fireworks where you are at some point during the year. So this technique can be used, obviously, anytime. Now, before we jump into things, the first thing that I want to show you, let's go into the grid here. And just to show you, you could see how many different shots I'm taking. The first thing you want to do, let's start here, is get your two things, your exposure and your composition. So I was on the roof of a parking garage. This is downtown Portland. This right here is the Hawthorne Bridge. And I was trying to just get, my bearings in terms of what I want in the frame, but also what the exposure should be. And you can see this is way too completely blown this area out. And then you can see how let me try a different exposure, until I started kind of getting what, getting dialed in. And you could see just how many different experiments, different shots I had to take. I kept kind of gradually opening up the shutter speed, adjusting my ISO. So just to kind of show you that you'll get a lot of different photos. And what you want to do is you want to get your exposure and your composition dialed in. You want your camera on a tripod. You want to fix your aperture. Just use your ISO and your shutter speed to adjust the exposure. Do not adjust the aperture because that's going to wreak havoc with your plane of focus. So once you get an exposure dialed in, and you have your composition dialed in. So for the most part, my composition kind of has the Hawthorne Bridge, and you've got the police shut down the roads here, so there was no traffic. There wasn't much of any long exposure light trails. You can see the police officer, his car right over there. So I wasn't worried about that. What I was mostly concerned with was the position of the fireworks, and thankfully the Hawthorne Bridge was lit, so that wasn't a problem either. So with that, again, so we're going to the end result will be something like this, where we take some of the best explosions and combine them together. So the first thing we want to do is select the actual images that we're going to composite together. And I'm going to select this one here. This is going to be kind of the base image. And then I'll just scroll up, and with the Control or Command key, Control on Windows, Command on Mac, I'm going to select the other images. So I'm going to select this one, and then I will select that one, and this one right here. So I have 4 images, which should give me 4 bursts plus the fireworks at the base. And to make it easier to identify, what I'm going to do is on any one of the 4, I'll just click on a 1-star rating for the metadata. And that's just going to make it easier for me. Like if I click out, I can quickly see, okay, these are the 4 images. Now with them selected, let me just do that one more time here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to go ahead and click on Layers, which will take these 4 different images and create one document, putting each one of them on its own layer. So let's just click that right now. And then I'm going to click Add as Layer on this dialog box. All right, so here we are in Layers. And again, one of the nice things about working in ON1 Photo RAW is that pretty much everything that we were doing were DNG files, so we had fully uncompressed, really nice raw files, a lot of tonal information, which is especially important with this type of photo. So you can see here are the 4 images. You can go ahead and rename them if you want, like we can call this one, base layer. And then, you can keep going up and down, but I'm fine for now. What I will do, though, is we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. So I'm going to turn off these top 2 layers so that we just have these 2 right here. And you could see the camera was on a tripod, so there was nothing that I had to worry about in terms of movement, which is really, really important. So with the base layer selected, now we're going to turn on the top layer here. I'll select it. Remember, you want to make sure you're selecting it. And I'm going to go ahead and select the masking brush. And this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're not going to be doing any sort of like perfect masks or anything like that. This is going to be pretty straightforward masking. But the first thing I want to do, though, is click on invert. So that's going to hide the entire image. And I'm going to make my paintbrush a little large. I want to make sure my opacity is at 100%. And I'm just going to draw this firework here. Now what I'm going to do is take the move tool, and we're going to move it somewhere else, kind of like somewhere over here. And what we're also going to do is change the blending mode from normal to lighten. What that's going to do is it's only going to let the brighter pixels come through. So if you want, you can keep with we can hit apply to commit the move, and then go back with the masking brush and keep drawing in the clouds, the vapor. And you can see here we actually started bringing in some of the horizon. So just press X to change. You see that when I click X, it goes from plus to minus. Plus will add, minus will remove. So I'm just going to kind of remove all that information here. Now with that selected, I can go back to my move tool and reposition it kind of somewhere closer to the base. Somewhere like right around there. And you can see that the smoke blends in because you have all of this explosion here. So it's actually working in our favor. So click apply, and then I'm going to go back to the masking brush here, and I'm going to remove, there's a little stray beam right there. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm also going to get rid of that right there. So we're good there. Now we move upward. Turn on the 3rd layer here, select it, change the blending mode to lighten. You can do that first if you want. And the other thing you can do first, in the previous example, I did the masking first, but if you want, you can go to the move tool first, whatever it makes you more comfortable. So you can kind of see a preview of what it'll look like over here because we're using that lighten blending mode. So we'll keep that there, maybe move it over a little bit. We can also put it over here if we want. I'll put it over there, kind of bunch it together a little bit. And when you're happy with the position, hit apply. And remember, you can move it around as often as you want. So now we'll take the masking brush, we'll click invert, and then we'll just kind of paint back this area here. And you can see, again, it's blending. The vapor, the smoke is blending in. So it looks completely natural. It looks like there's this big explosion. And now we move on to the 4th one. Turn it on, select it, change the blending mode to lighten. Take the move tool, move it around. So in this one, what I want to do is I want to do actually 2 things. I want to keep this explosion, and I want these 2 kind of sparklers. So before I do anything, I'm going to cancel, and I'm going to duplicate the layer. So I'll just, with the layer selected, I'll click on the duplicate layer icon. So now we have 2 of them. We'll turn the top one off, and we will go to the original layer with the move tool. This is going to be for the sparklers at the base. And so I'm going to kind of position it somewhere around here, and I'm going to adjust the size of the image so that the horizon kind of matches up, kind of like right around there. You see how that horizon matches up? So with that, I'll hit apply, then select the masking brush, click invert, and then make sure that we press X to add back in and just paint this area right there. Now you see I got a little bit of some extra stuff, so let's bring the brush size down, hit X, get rid of that, and then get rid of that. So we have this here, and now we can move on to the final layer. So take this image, we'll take the move tool, we'll position that explosion somewhere right over there. Cool. Click apply, masking brush, invert, and then let's just paint that back in. All right, so you can see here that I want to blend in the smoke, but you can see here now that we have these 5 different elements that we just painted in very easily. And again, we can go back here and reposition any of them. For example, this one right here, I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to select it, go to the Move tool, and then just reposition it maybe somewhere over there, or I could put it here. Basically, you can do whatever you want with it. We can kind of blend them together like that. That's kind of cool. I'll click that and apply. So now that we have these 4 layers masked and blended together, I'm going to go ahead and select the Layer menu item and then create New Stamped Layer. What that's going to do is it's going to take all the visible layers and create a brand new layer. So if you want, you can hide the other layers, you can delete them, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to keep them here just to have them. And again, we're working on a PSD file, so it's going to retain all of the layer information, even if you go into Photoshop. So that's why I like to create a stamped layer as opposed to merging the layers, because once you merge them, the layers are gone. And I like to have everything there just in case I want to come back and reposition something. I don't have to do all that work over. So now that we have this layer over here, I'm going to go into Effects and apply just a few effects. I don't want to do too much to it because I don't want to take a lot away, but I will take the perfect eraser over here, and I'm just going to get rid of this police car. It kind of bothers me. And I'm going to get rid of this little truck right there. And then I'm just going to click on Effects to start stylizing. All right, so I don't want to do too much, like I said, but I'm going to hit Add Filter, and first thing always, Dynamic Contrast. I'm going to bring both of the small, medium, actually all 3, not both, but all 3 of them up. And I'm going to take the vibrance and I'm going to kick that up a bit. Now, it's a bit too strong here, so I'm going to take the opacity of the dynamic contrast, bring it down to 0, and then you can kind of see how it gets a little crispier. So I'm going to go probably right around a little more than halfway. And that's looking good. It brings out a lot of the nice details. Now I'll click Add Filter. Next thing I want to do is add sunshine. And it might sound weird why you would want to add a filter called sunshine when it's pretty much the dead of night with fireworks, but look at that. I mean, just adds nice, it brings out the blacks. And when I was talking about earlier how you don't really have to worry about the blending, it was because of this particular filter, and it really does a nice job of kind of continuing or adding that blending to the fireworks, especially in the smoke area. So same thing here. Let's bring this down to 0. Let's bring it up about 70%. And then I'm going to take the warmth. And here's something that I want you to see. This is totally personal preference, but pay attention to kind of the bright areas of the fireworks. If I take the warmth and I bring it down, you can see how that light gets a little bluer. So again, that's personal preference. I actually want it to be a little bit warmer, so I'm going to bring that out here. Then I'll click Add Filter, and then I'll finish it up with a glow. And let's see here. Let's bring it to 0. It's looking kind of nice. I'm going to change the blending mode here, though. I think Multiply will really make it strong, and bring it down to 0 here, and just a little bit, something like that. So you can see now we have this really nice kind of rich image. Let's go to Color Enhancer, and I'm just going to bring overall saturation up, and I'm going to cool off the temperature just a little bit. It was getting a bit too warm for me, but if we click on the preview, see, I told you it's not much, but especially in the sky, it makes the sky look a lot richer, I guess. So when we're done, just click Done, and we'll return back to Layers. And now that we're in Layers, I'll click Save, and we'll get back to Browse. And so in Browse, you can see here we have, this is the original photo. And so you can see, just talk about kind of the process, the evolution of stylization. This is what I shared and created way back when. This was 2012 that I took these photos. And this is obvious. Ignore the difference in position of the fireworks, but like look in the foreground here. You see how it's just, and then the sky just, I was into this really big kind of texture phase with HDR and all that crispiness. But as I've gotten older, I think my taste has refined a bit. And so it's not nearly as in your face like, here just, it's in the foreground, like I said, it's just way too crispy. But here, this is, in my opinion, a totally convincing photo that there were like 5 or 6 different big explosions at once. And as you can see, if you go to the photos, there actually wasn't. in the times where there were a bunch of explosions, it blew out the sensor. It just made it way too hot because there was so much light in the sky. So what I did was I focused on kind of the smaller explosions, and made layers work for me. So I hope this gives you kind of a good idea of what you can do with fireworks going forward. And be sure to share your favorite fireworks with ON1 on Twitter and in Facebook. I want to see what you do with this technique. And again, I want to thank my friends at ON1 for letting me host this episode of ON1 Inspiration. And I want to thank all of you for joining me. You can find out more at my website, which is www.matiash.com. And I will see you next time.